treason. John was accused of treason against the state and was put out on an island in the Aegean Sea called Patmos Island. And while out there, he had a vision. And that vision resulted in some instinct that we got the book that we call today Revelation. And the correct pronunciation of it is revelation. Because things were revealed to John. You gonna pray with me? Revelation. He said that while he was there, separated from his friends, separated from his followers, it was necessary for him to get a letter back to them, to encourage them, and to sustain them through the storm of persecution that they had to go through with. He knew, John knew their trials and he knew their tribulation. And John sheltered them by saying, "Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give you a crown of life." Very often I hear folk say, "Be thou faithful until death. Be thou faithful until death." But that's not right. That's not right. It doesn't say that. Be thou faithful unto death. For you see, unto is stronger than until. You see, because when you hear people in the church today say, "Be thou faithful until death," that means that they're going to be messing around and doing next to nothing until they all of them die. Be thou faithful unto death, which means be thou faithful in the face of death, in the face of danger. Be thou faithful no matter if you have to give up your life. Be thou faithful unto. Have I got a witness? Now John knew that he had to get this letter past the Roman censorship. So he resorted to a style of writing that we call the intertestament period, called apocalyptic writing, which really means bail writing, card writing, secret writing. We find examples of it in the book of Ezekiel, in the book of Daniel, apocryphal, in the apocryphal, that group of books that were taken out of the Bible. cut out of the Bible. And it is highly symbolic or a symbol of cryptic writing, cryptic style of writing. For you see, the people had to have, to understand this type of writing, folk had to have a background to understand this type of writing. The writer of the book of John knew that the Roman officials would never know what he was talking about, because he had to criticize the state. John had to criticize the Roman capital. He had to say something about the emperor and those who had gone into allegiance with the emperor. In other words, he called Rome Babylon. He called Rome Babylon. And he couldn't have meant Babylon because Babylon had been out of existence for centuries. He called the emperor the great dragon. He called the heads of state, those who had gone into coalition with the emperor, he called them the beast. You gonna pray with me? He called history a scroll rolled up and sealed by 7 seals, that nobody could break those seals but the Lamb. Listen as you please. He called the church a woman in travail and pain. He called successive errors through which the church had to pass. He called the errors horses. He called the first horse the red horse. He called the second horse the pale horse. He called the third horse the black horse. He called the fourth horse, the fourth and final horse, he called a white horse. Listen. So by the red horse, he means that they would have to pass through an era of war and bloodshed. In the wake of that era, a natural sequence would follow. An era of starvation, pestilence, tribulation. And in the wake of that era, another natural sequence, an era of wholesale death, which he called the pale horse. But in that he predicted for them victory. In the white horse, victory and ultimate conquest, which he called the white horse. Have I got a witness? And its rider was Jesus. And then graphically, he described a long series of tribulation, trials, woe, misery, such as the world had never seen. Where mountains were moving, where hills were running, where men were calling upon rocks and hills to fall on us, where the sea was boiling like a giant pot, and the clouds were rolling up like scrolls. The sky was cracking like glass.